Viewer discretion is advised while watching this program. The thoughts and views expressed are solely those of the two hosts.
Going down?
It's going down. This is it, baby. This is it. Il Taco, this one's for you.
Oh shit. Yeah, I got the ZEVIA.
We are going to have one hell of an episode today, folks.
Yeah. Shit. Let's see what I got on the table. I got so many drinks. Got a water, I got a coffee, different with Gary Coleman.
Holy Pizzoli.
I'm gonna do maybe this has never been done. I'm gonna make a happy pig.
I've had a blind Pliny.
Yeah, blind Pliny. That's why I gave me the idea. I'm gonna make a happy pig. And I got this sign I won last year. I didn't win it. I was just in the fucking You Hold It Out contest.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, like over at Ellis Island, in town. They were having the where you hold it straight out with the beer in it. I was top 3, and I'll admit one dude definitely was gonna win. He should have won. He would have beat me. But then there's this old dude, and his arm was bent the whole time. They said
he didn't lock out.
But he was like this the whole time, and I swear it was like his wife worked there or something. And they kicked me out. Mine, I was probably like starting to get a little bent, but the other dude was way bent the whole time, and they let him keep going. So I was pissed. But
unacceptable.
Whatever.
100% unacceptable.
It was ridiculous, honestly. Let me get an opener. Are you drinking?
What do you want to do first? ZEVIA? Beer? I have some exotic beers as well.
Okay. I don't know. We could do the ZEVIA. You're mixing it with something?
Nah, I'll just drink it pure.
Yeah. I mean,
we'll start with the ZEVIA. We'll start from the ZEVIA.
I had one of those yesterday, and I thought I've had the cola before. They've changed their branding. Like it used to be in like it was like a red ZEVIA, and it was like I think it was like diagonal or something. And then, but the old cola, yeah, like Il Taco said it was the worst one, but it's like a hint of cola taste. But this one, I think it's pretty good. I think it's solid. They have a new cola taste.
All right, so here we go.
This one is definitely the best though, because it tastes exactly like root beer. It's called creamy root beer.
Cheers, my brother.
All right, cheers. All right. Yeah, it's just basically root beer. I don't even know why you'd even buy regular root beer if you got this. How's that one?
It's it's definitely a cola drink. It's not like a Coke. It's not like a Pepsi. It has different characteristics.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a soda, and it's probably a lot healthier for you because.
Oh yeah, because ZEVIA is like the stevia, the natural sweetener that's not sugar, and all it has is carbonated water, natural flavors. Yeah.
0 calories and 0 sugar soda.
That one has caffeine though. That one has 44 milligrams of caffeine.
Does it really?
Creamy root beer has 0.
Like a traditional root beer would not have caffeine. I didn't see if this had caffeine or not.
Yeah, I
So
noticed.
this is
Yeah.
almost like a perfect drink for somebody that can't have soda any longer, like your typical soda.
Yeah, and
But
even if
it
you're
does.
trying to diet, this is probably better for you than diet. Diet has all the maltodextrin and bullshit.
Correct.
Good for you.
And then it has a little bit of caffeine in it as well. So if you need that little pick me up, that little bump in the morning, or
I
to
think
get you
Diet
through.
Coke has about the same amount too. So it's pretty much you're subbing out diet soda, then it's Stevia's or Zevia is the way to go, I think.
And it's not the worst. It's not the worst tasting thing I've ever had.
No, yeah, it's definitely not up to Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi. Like it's not as good, but I'd say this one, I don't know. I think next we should get, once you find this one, the creamy root beer, we should both get a creamy root beer, and we both get a fucking like a regular
Like a
diet root
Barks or an A&W
beer, A&W diet root beer, and then
mug.
like which one's, I mean, the diet's probably better tasting, but I don't know. This one's pretty solid. I don't know.
So I think in terms of like taste, it definitely like you alluded to earlier, it does have the characteristics of a cola taste to it. And you said this one the root beer was real good. Sounds like you said.
Yeah, I mean, Il Taco even said it's the best one, and I've had them in the past, and I was like, yeah, I mean, the root beer, there's something about the root beer flavor that they can get that and put in this shit, and then it's like exactly the same.
So it's funny you mentioned that, because we do sell like artificial root beer flavoring.
Oh yeah.
At work. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's kind of interesting. So I guess like maybe anybody can make a root beer. Like we could make root beer at home and it might not be too hard.
I bet it's just like vanilla and like some other like extract that you put in, and then it's like, oh, this tastes like root beer type of thing. It's probably really easy to make, but cola is probably a lot harder because you need like cocaine or something, right?
Possibly. So before we get rolling on today's fantasy football episode, ZEVIA tasting episode, what was your thoughts on last night's UFC?
Oh, I was surprised. Like I thought it was a one. I mean, as far as like stars, it was a one match card, but then all the fights were pretty good. Like the first one was good. I forget the guys' names, but
Tuivasa?
Chinese guy got knocked out.
Oh yeah, he did.
He got tagged up and then he was out. And then the second fight was that Dan Hooker. Hooker was a 5-1 underdog or something like that, and the guy
made a lot of people happy over there in Las Vegas. I'm assuming.
Guy next to me bet on him, and yeah, that fight, it was kind of back and forth, and then he eked it out by like just fucking. I thought it might be a draw, but like there wasn't really a 10-8 round, but it was very close. But Hooker's more. I mean, he's an exciting fighter, so hopefully he keeps moving up. And then
Rosenstruck and Tuivasa.
Oh, Tuivasa.
Heavyweights.
Yeah, that one was like, I don't know. I think Tuivasa's like, he's either at a certain level where he's never gonna
like he's peaked,
or he peaked when he was knocking dudes out. He reminds me of like
Derek Lewis.
A little bit, or like, but I think Lewis is better.
As Derek Lewis.
I think Lewis is better. I think if they put him versus Lewis would win. I think I don't know, he's kind of like, he's like an old school guy, like where he's just kind of good at, like he can knock people out, but like he doesn't have the skills to like, I don't know, just to be a top contender. He's just kind of like a big fun heavyweight. Could be on a card and draw some people, but like I don't know, I don't see him ever moving up. And then I forget the names of the other guy. It was like an Australian versus New Zealand guy. And that fight was like, it was only a couple minutes in. It was kind of boring. And then the dude just fucking clocked him, knocked him out. So that was it was really exciting overall. And then the main event was like, oh, what's happening? Like, I thought DDP was tired out. Like, I thought he was exhausted. I was like, Stylebender's kind of like, he's still
and then Stylebander, he didn't even sit down in the corner, and they show him standing up like he's strong and ready to go, and then you see DDP, and he's just like, you think he's out of gas.
Yeah, he gassed out quick, like all those takedowns, and he tried to get the rear naked, and that, like, after that, he was done. He was just like covering up. But I mean, out of nowhere, he kind of like was picking his spot, and then he was like, there it is, bam, and then got the rear naked. I thought everybody thought he was gonna retire after Adesanya because he's taking his gloves off, but then he's like, I'm never retiring.
Hey, but I thought right before the knockdown and then obviously the tap out, they were right in the middle just throwing at each other. It was like, yo, that's what you paid us. Like that was good shit to me. Like both of them were in there just giving everything they had. I felt they give every last bit of energy that they had in that right before the finish of the fight. They were just beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
So would that be considered going out on your sword?
I wouldn't say, like, I wouldn't go that far, just because it was like they're going at it, but like it wasn't like a few shows ago with Holloway and what's his name?
Tapurier?
Yeah, where he like they're like, let's go, like, and then they're just swinging, and then he's like, fuck it, like, I'm losing, but let's swing at it and knock him out. Holloway didn't need to do that, but
going out on your sword or going out on your shield? Did I get it wrong?
I think it's sword, because you just like fall, like, you know, fall on your own.
Okay.
Or if you have to.
But I mean, imagine the energy that it had to have taken DDP just to hold Adesanya down. That must have been like trying to corral a horse. You know what I mean? Like to just.
Yeah, he was really, and he was having trouble. The longer the fight went on, I was like, oh, this is not good for him. He's looking like he's gassed, and he's not gonna, like, if it went another couple rounds, it seemed like he's just gonna like start dropping his hands or something. You know, he's so tired.
So up until that point, if you had to have scored the fight, what would you have had it at going into the?
I think I had DDP for the first couple rounds, and then all of a sudden Adesanya for the when did it end? The third or
I thought it was 4.
Okay. So I think from what I don't know. I had a couple drinks, and I but I wasn't like out of it. I was pretty like mellow. But I think I had DDP the first 2 rounds, and then Adesanya round 3, and it looked like round 4 because DDP wasn't doing shit. He was trying like some takedowns, but couldn't get them. And then then it was like, nope, he caught him, and then that was it.
So in terms of like DDP's fighting styles, do you think like he's like not a like he doesn't have a style per se, but he just kind of knows how to fight, and he'll fuck you up? That's how I look at him. Like it's not the most graceful, and it's a little unconventional, but he knows how to fight. That's my impressions of him. Like he just knows how to fight.
He had some cool strikes, like he did some spin kicks and shit that didn't connect, but then I guess his grappling's better than anything. I honestly, with the last season of Ultimate Fighter that I worked on, there were 2 guys from South Africa, and they were, I think they trained with him or trained around the same camps or whatever. I mean, they're all kind of like same area. But they were kind of like that too. Like they were just kind of like trying to be well-rounded. Like they weren't like, oh, it's not like Brazil, like, oh, these are the Brazilians that are like jiu-jitsu guys, and that's all they do, and like they're okay at striking, but they need jiu-jitsu, and like, well, like the South Africans seem like they're very like
well-rounded.
They've done it. I don't know the history exactly, but it seems like they've since MMA started getting popular there, they've just done the whole thing, like try to be good at every aspect of it. But yeah, in that fight last night, it definitely seemed like his strikes weren't the best until that he hit that one. It was just kind of setting up his grappling or something.
One of them did like a video game move. I think it might have been Adesanya did like a spinning back fist and hit him with like,
everybody popped in because I was watching it at Red Rock and they've set it up like kind of like a movie theater, or they just set out chairs, big screens everywhere, and everybody popped like, oh. But
when that move happened.
Yeah, but then everybody realized, oh, like I think his hand was up and he hit the dude's hand or something with the back elbow. And it made a loud noise.
Cool, but it didn't connect.
It did, like it didn't phase him at all. However, it connected.
So shout out to Red Rock. Was that like open to the like first come first serve, or did you have to pay to go in? Or
it's $25. They have a lounge in the casino that's like behind a bar, and you go in and it's like you can buy VIP tables on the side. They have like kind of raised up, or tables right in the front. Otherwise, there's just rows of seats, kind of like, I don't know, like if you went to an event and there are floor seats that are all attached to each other. It's not a huge place, but I'd say there are like 50 people there last night, and it could fit like double or triple that. Or no, I mean, if you fill up the VIP seats and stuff, you could probably fit like a couple hundred at least. But this time it wasn't that busy, but last time I went, I had to stand the whole night because it was so packed, and they were stopping ticket sales after me. And that was the Sean O'Malley fight. I think Sean O'Malley's just, maybe it was because it was January or December or whatever, and then it was a bigger card probably. But yeah, it's a good spot to watch. It feels like you're kind of like you're almost like you're there, but it's still a lot cheaper, $25. Because like if you got shitty seats at an event, like you went to T-Mobile, you'd probably be just watching the screen anyway the whole time. So this is kind of, and you're around people that are real fight fans. Like nobody goes there just casually. It's like all people that watch fights. So like when certain things happen, people are like, oh fuck, like flipping out, like that spinning back elbow. People are like, oh. It's not just like dudes. It's not. I mean, it's $25, so it keeps out the people that would just wander in and like, we're just gonna sit here and like, you know, or like people that. Why would you go watch that for $25? You know, if you didn't.
Right. So the place we went when we were over there, there was a free spot in Old Vegas on the old strip.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of like known about by the locals, and now I can't think of it for the life of me, but there was like a roof, and you had to go to the second level.
Oh.
That was kind of cool. And they had the fights on for free there.
Oh, nice. It was downtown.
I'll have to get back to you on the name of that place that we went to. But that was a cool place to go watch fights.
Right. All right. Anything else before we start? Any other news? I don't really have much.
It looks like CM Punk and Drew McIntyre are going to do a strap match. Looks like that's kind of interesting to me. How long can they prolong that feud?
Yeah, kind of. I don't know. It's going to be a while. Like, you think they want to stretch it out a while, but I was originally thinking like WrestleMania when the feud started, but Punk's back earlier than I thought, and then also now Austin's on the table maybe for WrestleMania. I think the match they would do is him and Punk if he was going to do it. But. So,
do you think does Punk have to ultimately lose the feud, because he may likely win the strap match, and then they'll have the third match that he loses, and then ultimately loses the feud, but still looks good in losing the feud, and then that elevates Drew a little bit higher? Or
see that.
Vice versa, does it elevate Punk?
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's that match they had, I guess it wasn't perceived as the best match.
But it wasn't a bad match.
bad, but they made it about that bracelet. It's fucking weird. They should have it was like a blood feud, and now he doesn't even care about the bracelets. I guess he's just like, just don't say their names. Here, wait a minute. I gotta go to the bathroom really quick before things get too crazy.
I'm gonna go pick up a beer.
Okay, cool.
We'll surprise Dan when he comes back. Whew. So how's everybody doing out there? We can't have too much dead air, so I'll just say some stuff. Lompoc High football rules. Well, at least it did in the 90s. Very good time doing that in the 90s. The 90s were a great time. If anybody's seen any good movies, comment down below. I got to rewatch the movie Terrifier. That was a good one, but I got to rewatch it because I had a little too many beers that day and didn't finish. I fell asleep on the chair. It's weird. Sometimes, like when you fall asleep on the chair, you get some of the best sleep in your sleep patterns. I don't know how that works. I just, maybe you're more relaxed. If we have any like doctors or people that know about sleep, feel free to send me a text or feel free to comment in the comment section down below. Phillies finally figured it out. These last two series, although they are playing very inferior opponents, they figured out how to hit the baseball this week, as opposed to my rant last week of not knowing how to hit the baseball. But like I said, they have been playing inferior opponents. They didn't act like that when they were playing against the frickin' Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks kind of scare me, guys. The Diamondbacks don't appear to be intimidated at all with Red October, with playing the Phillies. They just know how to beat the Phillies, and they could be a scary postseason matchup, just like they were last year. I didn't see that coming, but maybe the Phillies are just playing possum against Diamondbacks, and maybe when the playoffs come around, they'll have a little bit better at bats against the Diamondbacks, because the last 3 series they played against the Diamondbacks, it hasn't been good. So I don't know if we have any big baseball fans out there. I know this is the football episode, but like, I'm really a big baseball fan right now because my team's in first place. I've always been a baseball fan, but when the team sucks, I mean, you watch it for the first month and then you're not a baseball fan. So hopefully we can be playing baseball into about Halloween this season, and we'll go from there.
Unleash Furiosa.
What's that?
I don't know. I just took a shit.
Wow.
It was bad.
Caffeine shit?
Yeah, I had plans. I made a whole schedule. I was planning to get up at 7 today and like get shit going. And then last night I thought you said 10 a.m. So
I might have when I called you during the middle of the fights.
Yeah, but you said 9 the other day, so I was like, I should have been ready, but I was like, I don't know.
My fault.
So I didn't get ready like I should have, but all right.
So hang on. We'll finish up the CM Punk WWE thing. I was reading the other day and I wanted to hear your opinion about this. Is WWE in the last 6 months have gotten over a 50-cent bracelet and a $19 Ulafala more than anything that they've gotten over in the past 10 years. Your thoughts?
I thought, like, to me, the bracelet, like, I haven't really watched as much, and I guess it was kind of like, oh, he took his bracelet, but, like, it's also like, what, like, did the dog make him the bracelet? Like, who the fuck made the bracelet? Did they explain that, or was it just like, this is just like from a dog? Like, his dog's still alive. It's just kind of a weird, like, thing they added. I guess it got over a little bit, but I think it made the feud less, like, serious than more than anything.
And with Punk, you know, this had to be his I would imagine the bracelet was his idea, because he wouldn't allow anything that he didn't feel that would make him look insignificant. He wouldn't do something like that. So I'm imagining the bracelet was his idea, maybe to get the dog some publicity, maybe to give AJ publicity.
It just seemed like
silly.
It seemed silly to me, like a man with his fucking bracelet, you know? Like, if it was like, it would have made sense if a kid, like, he had a kid and the kid made it, and then like, oh, this is like the thing my kid made me. Then you'd go like, okay. It's like, I don't know, does his wife make that shit? Like, it wasn't like, I don't know. Or like, if his dead dad or something, like, it was something given to him by a dead person, that would make sense. But none of these people are dead. The dog's not dead. The dog's backstage or whatever. Like, he brings it with him everywhere, right? I don't fucking know.
And then the Ulafala?
Well, that's a different thing. I think that's cool, and that makes sense. And like, everybody's looking at it like, oh, it's it's fucking Thanos's gloves or whatever. That's I think they do good with that for sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that Jacob fought too. It's on bitch, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you, when you saw his knee buckle at the show at SummerSlam, did you think he was really hurt? Because I thought, oh, he's working it. Like, it was really good. Like, it looked like his knee gave out. But I was like, I think this is like a work, because why would I don't know. I didn't think, like, it did look like he hit his leg when he did the splash. But I was like, because they got to keep him and Roman apart. And then that's what I heard happen. They meant to do that so that Roman didn't just squash him right away. So,
but then this past Friday when he came out and he saved the day for the new bloodline, he was in a walking boot. I mean, yeah you can look that.
I think it's a gimmick walking boot. I think they're just like, because right after the show he was wearing it, and then they're probably like, yeah, just wear it, pretend that it all makes sense. But
they could really build him up to be a credible opponent for Roman in the future, huh?
He's like the best worker of all the Samoans, I think. Like,
all of them.
Maybe, I don't know. Like, I've seen some of his indie stuff, and he was really. I mean, he's just maybe as far as like versatility and like looking like a badass and all that, and like he can do like has he done the thing where he does the Tajiri thing where he hits the ropes, but he does a handstand into the ropes and then does a backflip onto the guy?
I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, he does some cool shit like that, and he does the moonsaults. Like, he's like kind of
so he's legit.
He's really agile. He does cool shit, and he looks like, I don't know. To me, he looks meaner than all the other ones.
See, so under Vince's watch, he would have never got Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, Jacob Fatu, all these like guys that were just like ripping ass in Japan and that we would read about. And maybe Patrick or you would have seen some of their stuff, but like I would always read about those guys, and like I was excited to see those guys finally make it to the mainstream. And now this Jacob Fatu actually looks like the real deal.
Yeah, no, I think they wanted Tama Tonga in the past, but he just never came. And then whether it was because he's trying to make a deal for his brother too, or I don't really know, but I think he had opportunity, or like had talks with them before, but for whatever reason he didn't go. He's still doing Japan, because he pretty much just only did Japan.
For like, he was over there for like 10 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
like, he was over there for quite a while, wasn't he?
I think he went through the dojo and shit. Like, I think he was like Finn Balor. Like, that's why they started the Bullet Club, because him and Finn Balor and Carl Anderson were always kind of like coming up at the same time over there. So I think he was like loyal to them for a long time, and then when he was finally like, okay, I can't really do anything else here, like, then he came over. Tonga Loa was there as the fucking
Camacho.
Yeah, he's the Mexican.
Camacho, right?
Yeah, he used to be Mexican.
See, those Islanders, they can play different. They can play Mexican. They can play Japanese. They can play.
Because like that's weird how that used to be the thing, but like they're already Islanders. Like, that's unique enough. Like, why didn't they're like making Yokozuna? I don't know. I guess they had too many. Back then they were like, we have two already. We don't need another one. We'll make this one Japanese. But now it's like, yeah, if you're a wrestler and you're one of those guys right now, it's like, oh, you got some good. Even if you can't get into WWE, you could probably like do some indies and like be like, I'm part of the family too. Get some money that way.
Hey, but the thing that you will never see our Islanders guys do, they'll never do like Rick Martel leaving Tito Santana, because those guys are loyal to each other. The Islanders would never do a dastardly deed like that. No good Rick Martel.
Yeah, I could put a clip of that in. Let me see. I'll mark it. I'm gonna start being professional and marking timestamps for these podcasts, and then I can go like back and edit, because scrolling through an hour and a half to try and edit really quick, I'm like, I can't find the part about Uncle Steve or whatever. So let me see.
Yeah, Rick Martel, that was very dastardly. How could he leave his teammate Tito Santana? Of all, like, Tito Santana, I'm sure is a stand-up guy, and for Rick Martel to do that,
it's a piece of shit.
He's no good. I'm sure Ultimate Warrior probably wanted to humble him in the background, in the backstage area after that.
Probably.
Rick Martel.
Piece of shit. He ruined the what was their team name? The
Strike Force.
He ruined the Strike Force.
How are you gonna do that, Rick Martel?
Right.
Comment down below if you've ever felt like, if you've ever had that feeling like when, like, Tito Santana being abandoned by Rick Martel.
Wasn't right. And then,
no.
I mean, Tito did go on to beat The Undertaker in Spain. So, I mean, it kind of like led to his singles career and Intercontinental title after that. Didn't he win?
Became a Matador?
Yeah, became a Matador. It's pretty cool.
I wonder if they'll ever do a Tito Santana El Matador Ultimate figure.
I don't know, because he apparently he doesn't have a contract. I think they've in the past, so we might have to, maybe I'll look it up. But he doesn't have a Legends contract. I don't know if he was in the concussion lawsuit, but they definitely made figures for a while, and then he hasn't been on for a while. Now he's with that Power Town that he made, like the Bruiser Brody. But
he's on that one?
Yeah, but their new line is all like, they only do 4 or 5 people at a time. So maybe the next line, but they only do like 1 line a year apparently, or so.
Didn't they do like Power and Glory? Was it that line, or
Zombie Sailor? They do the Hasbro style. The Tito Santana they were making, this Powertown company, was like Remco style, where it's like the Superstars figures now. But hopefully they make a full size Tito. I'd get it. Let me see.
That was one of my favorites growing up on Saturday mornings watching wrestling. Tito Santana was definitely one of my favorites, and that no good Jesse Ventura always calling him Chico, and playing in the Mexican Football League and taco stands in Tijuana.
Yeah.
That was some heel commentary Jesse had, huh?
No, it looks like okay, let me see. They made a Tito, like a regular Intercontinental type Tito figure. But see, I'll try and show you. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Made that.
Arriba!
Arriba. You should get an Arriba shirt. But then they didn't make the Matador like I thought they did. They did in Classic Superstars, which was Jax or whatever back in the day. But I don't know. Yeah, what the fuck? We got to get going, guys. Get a Tito going. There's a Hasbro Matador Tito. You have that one?
No, that's sweet.
Yeah, we got to get that.
Oh man, he was definitely one of my favorites. But I'm sure they paid him freaking $25 a day. I'm sure he was very lowly compensated for his part.
I used to like him and Marty Jannetty. I thought they were like the future, and then it never really panned out for those guys.
Well, for Marty, you know, he probably had transgressions.
Yeah.
You never really heard anything bad about Tito, but apparently Tito may have had a few transgressions. He has like a daughter that's maybe his, may not be his, but she's using the Santana name.
She lives in Vegas and she comes to the shows sometimes and does like interviews.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she's around. I wouldn't if you hadn't told me it was his daughter, I would have never known. She looks kind of Caucasian. I don't know.
Oh, is that right?
Too Tito-y to me, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen the mom, so.
But I think nowadays Tito's he's like a middle school math teacher.
Oh yeah, I think he has been for like 20 years. Like he's even when he was like, I think WCW was around. I think after his WWE run, he went back to teaching or went to teaching, and then like WCW had him on a few times on Nitro.
I never remember him on WCW, Tito Santana.
I think it was one of those things where like they'd bring in him, they'd bring in Marty Jannetty, and they'd give him like they'd get a couple wins, and then they'd face somebody that higher up and like lose type of thing.
Oh, so they job for the NWO.
Maybe. I feel like they've done. I don't know. I have to look it up, but I swear I remember Tito being on Nitro before.
I remember Rick Martel being on there. I remember he had like a good one with Booker T.
Yeah, he had a lot of U.S. title matches. He was U.S. champion, I think.
Or TV champ. Was it the TV champion or the U.S. champ? It was one of them.
One of those.
But goddamn, that Rick Martel, when he was in the AWA, was a hell of a hand, wasn't he? Like he was pretty good, like hand. Rick Martel.
He was AWA champion or whatever. So he was one of the top guys before WWE stole him away. But he, Rick Martel was good. Did you ever hear the story? He was supposed to go back to WWE, or WWF in like the Nitro era.
In the Attitude Era?
Before he started that Nitro run, he was talking to them, and you know Don Callis?
The Jackal.
The Jackal. Rick was supposed to go in with Don Callis, and they were going to be, instead of the model, they were going to be the supermodels, because Callis had like long hair, and he's kind of like thin. I don't know. That was the gimmick they came up with. They were going to be a tag team of the supermodels. And then
I've never heard that. Wow.
Yeah, that's what Callis always says. And then WCW called Rick and was like, "We'll give you more money." And he told Callis, he's like, "I gotta take the money." And it's like, "All right." And then he became the Jackal. So it could have been a new supermodels tag team, but
that would have. I don't know how that played. How do you think that would have played during the Attitude Era? They would have lost to Road Dogg and Billy. I would have assumed they would have jobbed to them.
I bet it would have been like New Rockers type shit where they would have been like, well, Rick Martel's old and fucking whatever. We're not going to like push him. And then Don Callis is just a nobody. We're not going to push him. So it probably would have been like New Rockers type shit. And then, yeah, they just jobbed to like Road Dogg and Billy Gunn or
Wins, Headbangers.
Yeah, all those guys. But you never know if it got a lot of heat, maybe they would have done well. But I don't know. Rick had a good run as
Rick Martel.
Huh?
He had a good run as just Rick Martel, huh?
WCW. He had some good matches, and he was a baby face kind of. He hadn't really been a baby face in Strikeforce, I think. So.
Do you remember during the Attitude Era a short-lived character named Beaver Cleavage? Did we ever talk about that?
No, I don't think we have, but yeah.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
Mock and his wife or something, right?
It was either the wife or the girlfriend, right?
Yeah, this is his girlfriend or something, but yeah, because they were going to repackage both of them, and he was the Beaver Cleavage because Vince loves incest, and then, which I don't know if I can say that on here, maybe I'll bleep that. They might give us weird algorithm. And then the other Thrasher was supposed to become a evil clown. That never panned out.
But they had to do the Beaver Cleavage first because the Thrasher was hurt, right?
Hey, he's still like recovering or whatever.
So they do the Beaver Cleavage, and it's kind of silly. Then the chick shows up with a black eye, right? And that just like ruined Mosh, right?
Yeah, it was like they came out and they're like, oh, we're just playing characters and it didn't really work, and like my name's Chad or whatever, and then he was still coming out with her, and then like they made it like a domestic abuse story. It was like they went from like the worst possible thing to like
even worse,
maybe worse because it was more real. It's like, oh god. But yeah,
so when he did that, was that a shoot or was that planned? Because I remember that was like right at the beat, like 99, like right when ECW got mainstream, and like, are they working this? Is this a shoot or did they plan this? What's that?
You're saying with the domestic abuse, or?
No, when he came out and he said, "My name's Chad. I'm not a Beaver Cleavage." Like,
oh no, I think what happened was they would have gone with it if it was like working, but it just was like they probably got a lot of bad like press or whatever, people just talking shit, and they're like, okay, we gotta just like pivot somehow, and they didn't want to just drop the character or drop him or whatever, so they're like, we'll just tell people it's not real or whatever. Shit, this cat jump is getting weird. Got a cat running. Special guest.
Hey, they were Headbangers, a little bit of an underrated Attitude Era tag team, huh? They were right in the middle of that era, and they were champions a couple different times, if I remember right.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't the heroes like the New Age Outlaws were, but they weren't bad.
Yeah, no, they were good. They came back for Ring of Honor a few times, and they were pretty good still. But yeah, they're making figures too. They're coming out soon. I'd have to get those. They were solid.
All right, so now what everybody's been waiting for.
Yeah, I gotta crack these because they've been sitting out for 40 minutes. They're just getting warm. See how I love the. Let me. What do you think about this? My friend, who's in the Russian River, also. Like I got the thing too.
Oh.
Yeah. Russian River. My friend thinks that Happy Hops, he likes that better than Pliny now. That's his number 2. He likes Blind Pig and then Happy Hop.
I would say I like Blind Pig more than I like Pliny. Blind Pig is the most underrated. The Blind Pig is the most underrated one they make, I think.
Yeah.
But then Happy Hops has, oh man, that's like a hophead's dream.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yes, it is.
I like it better than Pliny now too.
Even and I don't want to sound like I'm talking bad about Pliny because I love me some Pliny. No,
still like Yeah, we're just ranking out of like the beers they make, you know.
It's because we're not hipster millennials that
Yeah.
hey, we've took that 7-hour ride.
Yeah, we've done it. The memory came up in my story the other day.
Man, pizza. Put that mark this and put that picture of that pizza in there. That pizza that we had after that freaking 7-hour ride over there.
Oh yeah, I could do that.
Damn, that was a good night, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
So you're having a happy pig or a blind happy?
It's either blind hops or happy pig or happy blind pig.
A happy pig is like you fatten it up with the happy hops. What would a happy pig be when you gave it more? Yeah. Because the pig is a hog, like it just hogs.
That's right.
Look at us, man.
Look at what time is it? It's
10:05. 10:05.
10:05 Sunday.
Man, it took us a long time to get to these journeys to have freaking these exotic, well-maintained beers that we can have them at 10 in the morning now.
Yeah, and now, it's crazy how I went to Whole Foods last week and they're just totally stocked, like a whole section. Just
how fresh are they? What's the date? What's the date on yours?
7/15. So it's like a month.
Oh man, mine's freaking 5/21. So mine's 3 months old. But I've saved it for at least 3 weeks. I've saved this one.
Oh, here's another thing. I know, I get it. Like, you're not supposed to save these. Like,
not the IPAs. Drink the IPAs fresh, guys. Drink your IPAs fresh.
Right. But also, it's kind of marketing, right? Like,
absolutely.
Like, but I trick myself every time. Like, every time I buy one, I'm like, I'll just have like Pliny's and Blind Pigs and Happy Hops in the fridge ready in case occasion pops up, somebody comes over. But then they just sit there for like a couple days, and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to drink those fresh. I'll just get new ones and then I just drink them all. So like, what? That's why I only bought 2 of each, because these are the last 2 I have. So I'm taking a break, hopefully,
But it sounds like you're not having difficulty getting them anymore.
No, like when I first heard that they were gonna be here, back in like maybe April or May, I was looking around, I was having trouble. But now I went last Sunday to Whole Foods, and then I was like, they must have just restocked. I don't want any right now. And then on Tuesday or Wednesday, I was like, actually, I want to go get some. Or it's Thursday. I went, or no, Wednesday. So there were 3 days. Usually you give it 3 days, these things are gone, and it was totally stocked still. So I think people that wanted them realize don't need to buy them all up. They can sit on the shelves a little bit. And I think there was a panic at first. Like, I bought 3 cases the first time they were here because I was getting one for my friend. And but now I'm like, it's one of the beers that's available. It's awesome.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when we made that legendary trip up there, you and I, for the Pliny the Younger, did we stop about halfway and eat at Jersey Mike's? Somewhere in like Salinas or San Jose?
King City or Salinas or something. It was
definitely Jersey Mike's, right?
Next to a T-Mobile or something. I don't know.
That had 5K, and it was a big deal because that's right when the 5K had come out.
Oh yeah, I was like, I got 5G. Yeah, because it was
not 5K. What the fuck's the matter with?
Whatever it is. Oh yeah, I got to put a note about talking about beer. We're about 48.
But what a great trip that we had there. We drove. Yeah. We drove for 14 hours. We stayed in a hotel for probably 6 hours. We probably spent $600 between us in the time we in Santa Rosa.
Merch. I got a Pliny the Elder hat, and then it fell. I let somebody borrow it, and then it's gone. So then the next time I went, I got the pig hat. So I got the pig now. But I like this hat better too. Like the label, like Pliny, it was just the red Pliny, whatever. So this one's way cooler. So, oh yeah, got my Stein.
Stein. One last thing. Two last things before we really hit it strong with fantasy football.
Yeah.
When we were together last and we were talking, is the next John Cena on the roster? And nobody really thought yes, no. Nobody really answered. I think the next John Cena is on the roster now. After like thinking about it, you want to know who I think it is?
Who's that?
Braun Breaker.
Oh, really?
I think Braun Breaker could be just the best.
Yeah.
He could. I like what he's doing right now.
Yeah, no, of all the people that I can think of that are young and like coming up and like on the main roster, yeah, so like, do you ever watch NXT?
Very rarely.
Yeah, me too. But from what I hear, like Trick Williams, he's a good talker and he's in good shape and he's pretty decent wrestler. He could be somebody that's coming up that could be like the next big star. But like, yeah, it's hard to say John Cena with anybody because that's like.
Well, I don't mean necessarily John Cena. I just mean the top guy for 10 years, like Roman Reigns, John Cena. That's what I was meaning.
Braun's for sure gonna be a guy in the title picture, like sooner than later, and same with Trick once he comes up. That Carmelo dude, I don't really see it with him, but he's good. He's smaller and but he's not like Rey Mysterio spectacular from what I've seen. But
so do you eventually think they'll repackage Braun Breaker and give him the Steiner name, or is he going to make this Braun Breaker work?
I think it's already too late to switch it to Stein. I mean, you could do it, but it's like they've already like.
He doesn't need it now.
If they're gonna do it, they should have done it when he came to the main roster, and it's just like he's not Braun Breaker, he's fucking
Bronson Steiner.
And then you could have had. I mean, they're doing something they would never do with Vince, where, what's the big dude that destroyed Seth? Did you see that?
What the hell is this? Bronson Reed. Big Bronson Reed.
So that's probably why. Well, that's probably part of why they didn't call him Bronson Steiner or whatever, because there's already a Bronson. But they did like the joke with R-Truth the other day, where it was like he told Miz he got him a match with Braun Breaker because the names are similar. So it's funny, but then it's like, oh, like back when Vince was around, he probably wouldn't even have that close of a name like Braun and Bronson. Be like, that's too close. People, and like it makes sense in some ways for marketing, but then it fucks up. Like, there's people like your name Chris. I'm sure you work with another Chris.
I do. Several.
Like, it's real life. Like, I know for marketing and like you don't want to get people confused, but also like just I don't know. Then you like they should have different personalities and you should be able to tell the difference. Like there's two Chris's fighting for the title or whatever, you know? Like
Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit?
Mm-hmm. Because back then they were already super established, so they couldn't really change their names. But like, yeah, I still don't get the changing the names, especially like Steiner. He could have been a Steiner, and then it's just like, oh, any person that's ever heard of wrestling from back in the day, like, oh, I remember Steiner. This is Steiner's kid. Wow. Now they go, oh, Braun Breaker. Oh, that's Steiner's kid. Why is his name Breaker? What the fuck does that like? It's like a stupid wrestling thing that, like, it turns people off. Turns casuals off.
They broke it. They broke that with Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah, no, well, because Ray and him were like, we're not gonna. You know, like, I'm not gonna raise there, and Rick's probably not as involved, and they wouldn't listen to him anyway. But Ray was already super established, and that was part of the reason he signed back up, because he was like, if I sign back up, I want my kid in, and I want this and that. They're like, all right, because he could have gone to AEW. He was out. He did the first. It was before AEW was a thing. They did that all out show or whatever, All In, and it was produced by Ring of Honor, New Japan, and like Young Bucks, all those people. And it's one of the reasons that Tony Khan tried to start AEW. But Ray was on that show in the main event. It was a 6-man luchadors versus Young Bucks and I forget who else.
Probably Cody, right?
Nah, Cody was early in the show. He was facing the dude from the Arrow dude. There's that
Stephen Amell.
Yeah, Amell or whatever. He faced him. It was like, I think it was Pentagon Phoenix and Rey Mysterio versus, like, I don't know, I have to look it up. Maybe it was the Young Bucks and Kota Ibushi, but their time got cut. It could have been a better match. It was really short because they went too long and they had to be out at a certain time. But Ray he was there for that, and then he could have held out because I'm sure Tony Khan would have been like, hey, like, I'm going to start a wrestling thing. He probably would have paid him well. But then Dominic might have, probably wouldn't have worked out as well in AEW. He might have been like just wrestling Chris Jericho and shit. And like a lot of these dudes don't get over in AEW from wrestling Chris Jericho. It's weird.
Hey, so do you think right now Dominic's the best heel?
I mean, as far as like nobody likes him. There's probably some people that like him, just like, oh, he's great, like whatever. But like, he's like a true heel. He doesn't do anything that you're like, oh, I like that move he does though, or like, he does a cool frog splash. Like nobody really does that. They're all like, everything he does is just like, I fucking hate this guy type of shit. And that's
kind of like his real father, Eddie Guerrero, right? Like Eddie Guerrero could do stuff. Like Eddie Guerrero could play that part.
But with Eddie, yeah, I think when Eddie was heel and he was doing like the ladder matches for Dominic Custody and stuff, he wasn't really doing the cool light cheat steel stuff, like throw the chair and like hit himself or like pretend he got hit and then give he stopped doing like the funny stuff. And he's just like, I'm not, like, if you're a real heel, you want to be like, you don't want to be like anything be cool. Like Steve Austin, when he was a heel versus Brett and all that, like before he really got over, when he was starting to come up and get over, and like Austin 316 and all that. But like Austin 316 was like a cool catchphrase. Like if he was kind of being the cool heel, and that's what got him super over.
A tweener.
He's a tweener. But if you're like a true heel, like you shouldn't do anything that anybody likes, and that's kind of what Dominic's doing.
You shouldn't have merch.
Yeah, you shouldn't even have merch. You should just be like, fuck you. Or I mean, but like WWE, you're gonna have merch, no matter who you are. Just you're gonna give you something if you're popular.
The last part I wanted to say was about one of the guys I did like, Second Generation Star, and I think he could have benefited from the name, and they never did. And I liked the guy, was Curtis Axel. Oh, I thought he was a hell of a good wrestler, and they had a good backstory with him, but they wouldn't give him the Henning name, which I thought was silly.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, it makes sense for the company because they can't copyright it. And like, yeah, the Steiner thing, it makes sense because it's like he could just go to AEW and he could be Steiner, and then I guess it hurts marketing a little bit for this guy. Like it's like Dean Ambrose. He went to AEW and he's like, I'm gonna be Jon Moxley now. And now if he came back, I would think he would be Jon Moxley.
You don't think he would be Dean Ambrose if he came back?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe he would. Maybe, and then it'd be like there'd be like a clear separation. Maybe he's a different case, but he's definitely more well known as John Moxley now, like to the wrestling fans. But I don't know if WWE fans.
Dean Ambrose was a mainstream guy, but he got John Moxley. He made John Moxley even bigger than Dean Ambrose. Is that what you're kind of saying?
I don't know. Maybe he's a bad example because he's like, he seemed like he to me he has, but I watch AEW, so to you never watch AEW. You're probably like Dean Ambrose. That's who I know. And like, yeah, and if I don't know, he might be a special case where if he came back, like obviously he's not doing a bunch of blood matches, and it might be like, okay, it's like almost like a Foley thing where it's like, well, Dude Love doesn't do the extreme matches, and Cactus Jack does, and Mankind does, so maybe not that they're different characters, but like different names,
right?
I don't know. But but like Steiner went to AEW or something, he could just be Steiner, but the marketing department's like, well, we can't break it.
Any of that has to do with they want the guy to get over without having to use the name? Sink or swim without it?
I'm sure that's a small piece, but I think it's mostly like being able to copyright a name. Because even if he was like, well, my last name's Steiner, I'll be Steiner because that's the well-known name, but then I'll be like Claudio Steiner, like, you know, or like Thaddeus Steiner or something stupid that's not his real name, and marketing doesn't want that, because then as soon as he leaves,
he can take that with him.
I'm Bronson Steiner, and they'll be like, oh, Steiner, okay. They just want to, like, I don't know, it's a weird thing where like they want to have control and like be able to like you know, like have you by the balls a bit. I think that's what it's about, like in general with all these names.
Well, what about when Jim Hellwig changed his name to Warrior?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a way around it too. It's like if like Cody couldn't have Rhodes forever, and then he finally won it when he was in AEW, and then he came back to WWE anyway, and he would have it. So it's one of those things where like if you fight it at all and you're just like, I made my money this way, and like I know I signed the thing, but like I can't make money without my name, courts will be like, they'll always side with you over the company, like a single person, if you really go for it. But
that's your name.
Yeah, it's like you made it famous, like you're just gonna have to fight for it, and then eventually you'll probably get it, unless you sign like some really crazy contract where it's like, I can't ever sue about or like dispute this somehow, or I don't know.
Okay, last thing before we roll.
All right.
Did Patrick get a new TV, to your knowledge?
Oh, not that I know of. I think it'll be like, I don't know, maybe around his birthday.
In time for Survivor Series?
Maybe, I don't know. I'll probably hear from neighbor Phil if he does. He'll be like, "Oh, Patrick showing off, got a new TV," but and then I'll tell Phil, because I don't think Phil watches the podcast, but I'll be like, "Oh, it's because of our podcast." But I don't know if Patrick even watches it. Like he said, he acts like he does sometimes, or he probably puts it on, not doing something, not paying attention, but.
All right.
Like an hour in.
Please.
What's happening? Why is it shaking?
Did we just have another earthquake?
I don't know. Yeah, how was the earthquake for you guys?
I felt it. It shook me. At first I thought I was drunk, but I hadn't had any drinks that day. I was like,
yeah.
And then I was watching the baseball game, of all things. And that was one of the days when Phillies was playing Dodgers. And they said, oh, in the stand, on the TV broadcast, they said, oh, we just had an earthquake out here. I was like, oh, shit, they're acknowledging the earthquake.
Wow.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the Fantasy Football Apostle Songbird podcast episode. Most watched episode of 2023. So hopefully we duplicate and replicate. And I just want to preface this by saying I by no means am Matthew Berry. I'm not an expert on this. This is just things that I've done a little bit of research for. And I'll try to give you the best tips and advice that I can from what I've been working on over the course of the past month. So if you don't win your fantasy league, I don't want to hear your sad story. These are my views, and you can use them. You can flush them down the toilet. You can do with them what you'd like.
You can comment in below and say like, I disagree or I agree, and then we'll talk about that next time maybe.
Or you could say, I used your tips and I won my fantasy league.
Right.
I'd love to hear that.
Right. If you had followed last year, I think you had great advice based on not knowing anything about football, but based on other people telling me, they were like, yeah, that is good advice, or like, I don't know.
Okay, so I wanted to be, I have a lot of topics here, so I have a list. So I just want everybody to know I've written stuff down, so don't think that I'm doing other stuff as we're going through this. So where should we start? The first thing that I've known that I think I've got a good grasp on during this fantasy draft season is there's plenty of depth at the wide receiver position. So that being said, if you're in a PPR league, which is points per reception, you'd like to get one of those top level wide receivers, such as Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, Jamar Chase. But in the event that you don't get one of those top guys, there are guys that are available later on in the draft that are gonna be able to get you substantial points in the event that you miss out on one of the top flight guys. Plenty of depth at wide receiver, which leads me to my next point. The running back market is undervalued, I feel, after the top two running backs, which for whatever reason, I could see Christian McCaffrey is right now the number one overall pick in all drafts, running back for the 49ers. I get it. But then the next one is is caught me off guard. And the more mock drafts that I've done, I still don't understand why. Is a gentleman by the name of Breece Hall, so running back from the Jets. And I kind of feel that, yeah, I know the Jets. You don't think of like football powerhouse with the Jets. So this Breece Hall most of the time goes by the fourth pick in a 12 in most. And I want to preface this also. My findings is in a 12 league draft. So Breece Hall of the Jets, the New York Football Jets, goes inside the top four picks, which I find mind-boggling because I don't see it with him. I don't get it. And if you pick him in those top four picks, thank you, because you're doing me a favor for me not having to pick him there.
Yeah. What's this dude's name that you're saying?
Breece Hall.
Breece Hall.
B-R-E-E. What's that?
I'll put a picture of him later.
Okay. I'm not trying to say that he's a bad player. I just think he's overdrafted.
He's not what the hype. There's too much hype behind him, maybe.
I think so. I think so.
You probably already said this. He was an early draft pick.
Yeah, in the fantasy drafts, or in the football. I think he was a second or third round. Like when he got drafted into the NFL, he was a high draft pick. But like during the fantasy drafts, he's a top four pick, which I think is very, very rich, especially for him. So I think the running back, just in general, is undervalued, but you gotta know when to pull the trigger there.
Yeah.
You really do, because if you do it right, you can have a positional advantage at running back, whereas everybody else now is loading up at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Which I kind of discovered about 6 years ago. That was the trend. That's where it's going. I don't know if the trend is shifting back to the running backs yet. I think eventually it's going to be more heavily running back dominated league, fantasy drafts. But right now it's not. The receivers have really taken off, and I think people have grasped that.
Yeah.
And our league, my Lompoc league, did not grasp that for the longest time. And within the past 2 years is when that finally happened. In the Lompoc league, we're very, very running back. Everybody had to have 2 really good running backs.
Yeah.
And finally, over the course of the past 2 years, we've gotten away from that in the league, and now the draft trends in that league have changed. So that being said, it's like, everybody's going to draft wide receivers, and maybe the running backs slip. And one of the running backs that I really like, and I'm going to give 5, I have 5 guys that I've written down that I really like, and I'll tell you why I like them. And this one, number 1, I'm sure everybody's going to figure it out for a personal preference, obviously, but I think a long time ago, a wise man told me, you don't pick with your heart, you have to pick with your head. But I think Chris's first pick for my 5 guys that I like, believe it or not, as a running back, and I think everybody's going to figure it out when I say the name, why I like him. Saquon Barkley, Eagles.
Saquon Barkley.
Why do I like Saquon Barkley? Well, yeah, he's on the Eagles. And I really feel this in my heart. And I want anybody that hears this to listen to this. Hear me out. Hear me out here. This isn't me being a Homer Eagle guy. Saquon Barkley played for the New York Giants for football Giants for the last 6 seasons. Never once was he on a team that had as much talent that the Eagles have. And where the Eagles are really, really talented, well, on offense, they're really talented. But the thing where Saquon could really benefit, well, he's going to benefit in all aspects because they have really talented receivers that, especially a guy named A.J. Brown, that's going to have to require double coverage. So that's going to have a light box for Saquon to run through. But the thing that Saquon's
pulling his dick out all the time, or is he?
No.
Antonio Brown.
That's Antonio Brown.
He's out of the league, right?
Correct. Maybe it was a little CTE, but that was one of my heroes in the mid 2010s. I had Antonio Brown before he went crazy, and I used to whip everybody's ass when I had Antonio Brown on my fantasy team. But back to Saquon, the Eagles are really talented in the offensive line, the guys that have to block. Yeah. And when he was on the Giants, they never had like good offensive line play, but he was still able to generate very, very productive numbers with mediocre offensive line play. So now he goes up the I-95 up to Philly, and they have possibly the best offensive line in the NFL, maybe the best offensive line in the NFL. So you put him behind that offensive line with the skill set of the receivers they have of A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, and then the running threat of Jalen Hurts that you have to factor in. Saquon, this is my, hopefully doesn't happen. If Saquon doesn't get hurt on the 3rd or 4th play of the year, he could be NFL Offensive Player of the Year and could have 2,000 combined scrimmage yards, rushing and receiving, and 14 touchdowns if he doesn't get hurt. He could have a huge year, very undervalued draft asset. He goes in a 12-team league anywhere between picks 10 and 14, which is, if you get him there, I would be very happy getting him there. I think he could have a huge year if he doesn't get hurt. So that being said, and for people that have known me and drafted with me for a long time, I always bucked trends, and I was always picking the wide receivers when it wasn't cool to pick wide receivers. But now I'm shifting with my second one, and this is like my sleeper like second favorite NFL team, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But I'm going to give you the name. His name's Derrick Henry. He used to play for Tennessee Titans, and they call him King Henry. But now he went off to my second favorite team, the Baltimore Ravens. And there's just something about the Baltimore Ravens that I like. They're just tough. They play football the right way. They play defense. They have grit. They just play football the right way, like the way the Lompoc Braves used to play in the 90s. They were fundamental. They were coached well. And now they have this guy, Derrick Henry. And I think the Ravens is an organization that is run well. You don't usually buy running backs at this stage of his career because he has a lot of miles on the he has a lot of tread worn off the tires. But the Ravens, I always feel like they do things the right way and they're smart. And I think Derrick Henry, you put him on. Sorry.
What else does Baltimore have? They got their football team. Like, otherwise, it's tough over there.
Well, they have a really good baseball team, believe it or not, right now. Their baseball team's really, really talented. They're battling the Yankees for first place.
I think that's all they got to believe in is their sports. I don't know. I've heard things about Baltimore where it's pretty tough city. Like, I don't know.
But I think
they love Wendy's there. The fast food chain Wendy's. They love that.
Oh, is that right?
I don't know. I heard from one guy they did.
But you put Derrick Henry on the Baltimore Ravens, and I think that could be a match made in heaven with the skill set of their quarterback, Lamar Jackson. You mix him in with Derrick Henry, and I think Baltimore last year they tried and they were kind of successful converting over to being a power run team. They wanted to throw the ball a little bit more, and they did throw the ball a little bit more last year, and I think they're going to kind of get back to kind of playing Baltimore Raven football with Derrick Henry, that smash mouth in your ass. Here it is. We're going to run our 240-pound running back right up your asshole. That's what I think they're going to do, and I think if Derrick Henry touches the ball 400 times, he could have a huge year. Or there's two possible outcomes I feel with Derrick Henry. He could have this just massive monster year with the Ravens and just mash everybody. Or the Tennessee Titans were right. He had no tread left on the tires. There's not going to be I don't feel it's going to be a happy middle with him. And Derrick Henry, he's ADP, his average draft position, somewhere in the middle of the second round. So somewhere in a 12-team league, he's probably about the 16th to the 20th player picked. And if the first outcome where they play smash mouth Baltimore Raven football, he could have 1,600 rushing yards and he could have 20 touchdowns. Because then he's running the ball where their $60 million quarterback Lamar Jackson is not running the ball, and I think that's a protection on the quarterback investment for them. Yeah. Well, like I said, there's two possible outcomes. It's black or white with Derrick Henry. I don't think there's a gray area with him. Baltimore Ravens, they play football the right way. That's just a tough-minded.
Is it the coaching staff or is it something bigger than that?
I just think that's their mindset. They've had their coach, John Harbaugh. He used to coach with the Eagles back when Andy Reid coached with the Eagles. John Harbaugh was coach of special teams for the Eagles, and then he went to Baltimore. He's been at the Ravens, I think, since 2008. Maybe we'll look that up. One hell of a football coach. I like this Harbaugh brother better than the one that the Chargers have. Really? Better than Jim. I like the John Harbaugh. Hell of a football coach. Comes from a football family. I mean, obviously the Harbaughs, anybody that knows football, Harbaugh. But I like the guy the Ravens have. Just a tough-minded, culture. They just do things. They call it the Raven way. I mean, I'm sure people have heard of the Raven way, and that may you get it. If you know football, you get what the Raven way is.
It also makes sense, being the Songbird, that you would gravitate towards bird mascotted teams.
Absolutely.
You love the Eagles, you love the Ravens. Are you
birds of a feather flock together?
Huh?
Birds of a feather flock together. Okay. Yeah. My next one is a wide receiver. And let me preface this in the past why I like this guy, and maybe this is a little historic bias, but in the past, rookie wide receivers have really done well in fantasy if you get the right one. And I think this year there's two special ones, two special rookie wide receivers out there. One you're going to probably have to draft in about the end of the second round. His name's Marvin Harrison Jr. His father was Marvin Harrison Sr., NFL Hall of Famer for the Colts.
Yeah.
But the one that I like, that I feel is undervalued, and you can get him in about the 4th or the 5th round, is a rookie wide receiver out of LSU, and he plays for the Giants. And in 2014, the similar situation, the Giants had a rookie wide receiver from LSU named Odell Beckham, and I had him that year, and I won the fantasy championship led by Odell Beckham and Antonio Brown, believe it or not. But so this guy that I like this year, I'm hoping history repeats itself and I can get him at a value spot down there in the 4th or the 5th round, is Malik Neighbors, rookie receiver from LSU. He has all those same characteristics. He really does remind me of Odell in his body build, his speed, his ability, his catch radius. He might not have those big 5X hands that Odell had, but he has all the athletic traits that Odell has. And the Giants are probably going to be losing a lot, hopefully.
Yeah.
So they're going to, and when you lose, to catch up, you have to throw the football. The easiest way to catch up is to throw the football. And the Giants do not have any real particularly good skill positions. This guy is a special guy. This guy's a special breed of NFL player, I think. So Malik Neighbors, 4th or 5th round, could be a guy that helps you win your fantasy league.
Nice. Here, I got a question, just as a person that doesn't know anything about football or fantasy. So I feel like I've asked questions like this before, but so each position, like you're saying, pick this running back or whatever. Does the running back position, how do they score you points as opposed to like a quarterback? Like quarterback, is it from being, if they're on a play that scores or like gets a certain number of yards, or like how does that all work?
Apostle Matthew, that's a great question. And for those of you out there, let me answer that question. So the quarterback, he scores points by passing yards. So for every 20, in most leagues, I'll just give you, like, for example, how most leagues do it. Your league manager may have the scoring system set a little bit differently. So the quarterback, he gets his points for passing yards. So like for every 25 yards of passing yards, you get 1 point. Yeah. But then for every touchdown in our leagues, a passing touchdown is worth 6 points. And then a rushing touchdown is worth 6 points, regardless of who gets the rushing touchdown. So that's how the quarterback score. But then the quarterback also gets minus points for a fumble. That's a -2. Okay. Or for interception is a -2.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that if you fuck up, you get bad points.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, that's cool.
So that's why quarterbacks such as Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, that's why they're valuable commodities, because they get the extra rushing yards.
They don't fuck
where
up, right?
They don't normally, well, they do make mistakes.
Yeah,
but
not
their mistakes, they get them back from the rushing yards, which I'm going to get to next. So the running backs, how they get their points, for every rushing yards, it's like a point one, like for 1 yard rushing, it's a 1 point. So like for 10 yards of rushing is 1 point.
Okay.
So 20 yards would be 2 points. 15 yards would be 1.5 points. So then going back to the quarterback real quick, sometimes quarterback scoring, when they throw the touchdown, when they actually do a passing touchdown, that's only worth 4 points in some leagues. Some leagues it's worth 6 points.
Yeah.
But then the rushing touchdown is always a 6 point play normally. I mean, some leagues are probably different. Maybe a rushing touchdown for the quarterback is worth 10. Just depends how your specific league manager has it set up. So back to the running backs. And in a PPR league, which is a points per reception, like if you do it, like if the quarterback throws the ball to the running back and the running back catches it, that's worth 1 point. Like a caught ball is worth 1 point. So the running backs that catch the ball are a little bit more valuable than somebody like King Henry that doesn't really catch the ball. But King Henry gets his he makes his points by because he has a lot of rushing yards. He might not get those extra like catching points, but he more than makes up for it in the rushing yardage.
Yeah.
So the scoring back to the running back is like that. The catching the ball, and then like obviously if they catch the ball, receiving yards. So like if you get like a 10-yard reception after you caught it, that's worth like 1 point. But it's actually in a PPR is worth 2 because you get 1 point for the catch, and then you get 1 point for the 10 yards of receiving. Or if it's 5 yards, you get half a point. So that's why the running back guys, if you get the right running backs, the Christian McCaffreys, the Saquon Barkleys, I'm not so sure how well the Breece Hall catches the ball. See, that's why I'm not so sold on him. I don't know if he does or not. I didn't do any research on Breece Hall because I'm not planning to pick him. So running backs that catch the ball, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, very, very valuable. Very valuable. And then obviously if they fumble the ball, that's a minus point. So that's minus 2 points for the running backs. So I think I got that running back scoring. Then receivers and tight ends, same thing applies to the running back, same scoring as the running backs, receivers and tight ends. Like if you catch the ball, 1 point, and then the yardage that you got while you catch the ball adds into that. And obviously if you fumble it, you get minus point. Like if fumble and the defense recovers it, you get minus points for that.
Okay.
Does that make sense there? And then there's the kickers. The kickers, if you get the right kicker, that can be a very valuable commodity because the kickers get points for the extra point, the point after the touchdown, that's worth 1 point. And then if they do field goals, like any field goal between 17 and 29 yards, everything between 17 and 39 yards is worth 3 points. Anything 40 to 49 yards is worth 4 points. Anything 50 to 59 is worth 5 points. And then 60 and above is worth 6. And nowadays there are guys that can make those 60 plus yard field goals. But then the kickers, they do get minus points for missing the extra point, and they get minus points for missing the field goals. So if you have the right kicker, that's a really, in my mind, what I like to think, I always like to get the best kicker, and I always try to get Justin.
I was one of your fucking.
That's one of my pet peeves, and I always try to get Justin Tucker of the Ravens because he's never. I think maybe last year he was the top scoring kicker, but he's always within the top 5 scoring kickers. So you know you're getting reliability with him. I always try to get him. That's one of my pet peeves. So if anybody sees this, if you want to fuck with me, overdraft Justin Tucker. I look at the kicker as a starting position. Most people think that's a throwaway position. I'd rather have the number 1 kicker, me personally, than a running back 2. I would rather have, because there's so much volatility in the running back position, in my opinion, where if you have that kicker that you know he's going to produce and he's not going to go minus points, and you always know the kicker 90% of the time doesn't get hurt, you don't have to worry about him being hurt, and you know he's going to get you at least 6 points, could be upwards of 20 points depending on the day. Whereas that running back 2, depending on who you have, could get hurt, could have minus points, could be playing, fumbles the first play and gets benched, or fumbles and gets hurt, and then you have a minus points on that day. So I always want the kicker, and like I said, if you want to fuck with me, overdraft Justin Tucker. I look at trying to get Justin Tucker in all my drafts in the 10th round. I value that position.
Yeah.
And then the defense and special teams, you get points for yardage, and you get points for sacks, turnovers, safeties, and defensive touchdowns. So the thing that I've been real successful for, and then the Lompoc League has finally caught on, people would always overdraft the defense from the previous year, and you pay a premium to get and I even did it once, and I learned my lesson years ago. I overdrafted the Pittsburgh Steelers the one year. I can't remember, it was like 2009 or 2010, and I just wanted to have the Pittsburgh Steelers because they had all the really good players, Paul Malo and James Harrison, and they were getting a lot of sacks, a lot of turnovers, and I overdrafted them. And then those guys had gotten hurt, and I had learned my lesson. I said, I'm never going to purposely be the first one to draft a defense. And I really believe in streaming the defenses. That's one of my things. Like, I don't think you have to overdraft defenses. And I like to play defense matchups. I like to go up against the weaker teams. And you can't always do that if you have the Pittsburgh Steelers or if you have the 49ers. You have to play, like if you draft the 49ers defense, one of the better defenses to have. I hate to say that because I don't like the 49ers one bit. But if you draft, you've got the 49ers, you're going to play them. You're not going to play the matchup. If the 49ers happen to be playing like a powerful Green Bay Packer team that has a powerful offense, you're in bed with the 49ers at that point because you drafted them. Whereas if you didn't draft them and you're streaming the defenses, and when I say streaming them, you're picking from week to week of the available defenses that are left on the waiver wire. And we'll get into the waiver wire in a little bit. But I like to play defenses based on matchups. That's just another one of my pet peeves. And I am guilty of overdrafting the defenses, but in my 25 years of doing fantasy football, I only did it once. And I thought it was a safe bet, but it wasn't. So that's my league scoring summary and some synopsises on certain positions and why I do what I do when I do it during the draft.
Cool.
And then my other guy that I like going into the year is a guy that plays for the Commanders, a receiver that's always given the Eagles fits, but he only seems to give the Eagles problems, and I can't figure out why he doesn't do well against the other teams in the NFL because he really fucks the Eagles' mother. His name's Terry McLaurin, receiver for the Commanders. You can get him probably the 5th or the 6th round in your draft. And this year, the Commanders, I think they have new coaching staff and they have some veteran players in there now, but they have a rookie quarterback. And the rookie quarterback is exciting. And I've read a lot of good things about this rookie quarterback. So this Commanders, they could be a little bit of a trouble team in the NFL. And I like McLaurin. I think he's their best fantasy option. I think he's a little undervalued. I don't know what it is about him just raping the Eagles. He seems to do that twice a year. Every time they play, he has big games against them. There's no doubt. But against the rest of the NFL, not so good. But now that they said they have this new coach and they have a rookie quarterback that's from everything I've been reading about is really kicking ass out there for them. So he could really, and McLaurin's never had like top-notch, top-level quarterback play. And I think right now he does have that. So he could have a good year for them, in my view. I don't know what it is. Like I said, I don't know what it is with him and the Eagles. Like he just does good games against them all the time. But yeah, comment down below on if anybody has anything on Terry McLaurin. And yeah, you guys are thinking, oh, Chris, all you talk about is NFC East guys, or all you talk about is Eagles. But my last guy that I like is another receiver. Actually plays for the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen. Josh Allen is either going to be the first quarterback picked or the second quarterback picked in the draft. But the Bills, they're in a little bit of a transition right now. But Josh Allen maybe not have the strongest arm in the whole NFL. Comment down below, Patrick Mahomes, so on and so forth, Joe Burrow. But Josh Allen, they lost all their skill players. They're in a little bit of a transition because they didn't manage their salary cap properly. So Josh Allen's going to have 4,000 yards to divvy up, and somebody has to catch these balls from him. That leads me to my next guy. His name's Curtis Samuel, and I've always liked Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel, he came from Ohio State. He was a second-round pick of the Panthers, I think, and then he somehow ended up on the Redskins/Commanders. And I always liked him. I always thought he was a really good football player in general. And sometimes being a good football player doesn't transition into being a good fantasy player. Like a guy like Curtis Samuel, like the guy that always comes to my mind when I say that was Darren Sproles. Darren Sproles played for the Eagles and he played for the Saints and the Chargers. And he was always like a really talented football player in general. And that, like, didn't always translate over to being a great fantasy football player. Because Darren Sproles, like, he always did the little things. Like, he would do punt returns, and he'd do kickoff returns, and he would run the ball, and he would catch screen passes, and he always would make a big play when the team needed it. It was always be him. He would get a first down rushing, or he would catch a big third down reception, and normally would convert it. And that always didn't translate into fantasy success because he didn't have the opportunity. He didn't have a lot of opportunities. Whereas Darren Sproles may have touched the ball between 8 and 12 times, where someone like Saquon Barkley is going to touch it 25 to 30 times. But Darren Sproles is like, his touch is like really, really counted. And that's what I think is going to happen with Curtis Samuel. He was a really talented football player, and he can impact the game in a lot of ways. And now, like I said, he was on the Commanders the last couple seasons, and they did not have good quarterback play. Well, now fast forward into 2024, and he goes to Josh Allen, which may be the best quarterback play. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Curtis Samuel to touch the ball, in whether it be catching it and running it. And I think he can return punts as well. So I think he's in line to maybe be a sleeper. So those are Chris's 5 picks that I like. That I like. And then I'm going to give you 2 under the radar picks that come later in the draft that are kind of sleepers that I like. It's somewhere along the line in your draft or during the season, you're going to have to take a flyer on some guys that maybe not going to win you games in September or October, but come the fantasy football playoffs at the end of the year, you're gonna wish that you had guys like this, and you're always gonna find them. And then there's this thing I talked about earlier. It's called the waiver wire. So there's the pool of NFL players. So in the 12-team league, you have 16. In our leagues, is 16 spots on your team, and you can have up to so many quarterbacks. You can have up to so many wide receivers, so many running backs, so many receivers, so many kickers, so many tight ends.
Yeah.
So then everybody that's left over ends up on the waiver wire, and then on a weekly or daily basis, depending on your order in the waiver line, you have access to pick these players up depending on where you fit in your league. Like the worst team that doesn't have the best records, and these are normally head-to-head matchups. So the team that has the worst head-to-head record gets first pick of anybody on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
So these people, I don't think will be on the waiver wire initially, but I think these are 2 guys that you may want to stash in your bench.
Okay.
So they don't hit the waiver wire. And the first is a running back from the Denver Broncos, believe it or not, of all teams, Denver Broncos. And I don't think he's going to start initially, but I think if you have him, you're going to be happy that you had him eventually. And his name's Jaleel McLaughlin. Now, I don't know a lot about Jaleel McLaughlin. I just think at some point he's going to be a viable starting fantasy running back for an NFL team during the fantasy playoffs. Or maybe earlier on, Jaleel McLaughlin. And like I was talked about earlier, the running backs it's a volatile thing. And this is a guy I don't think you're going to have to overdraft, and he may or may not get drafted.
Yeah.
But running backs that produce are hard to find. And this guy does catch the football. So in the PPR league, he's a good guy to have. And then my other guy, sleeper guy, comes to us from the Los Angeles Chargers and from Coach Jim Harbaugh. And we talked about Harbaugh's earlier. They like to run the football. If you go back to Jim Harbaugh's time with the 49ers, they ran the piss out of the football. They played smash mouth football with Frank Gore. And they played, I can't think of the other guy's name, Kendall Hunter. They had a bunch of guys, and they just ran the football, and they played physical football. And then the last 6 or 7 years when Jim Harbaugh was at Michigan, when everybody was into the spread offense and throwing the piss out of the ball, Jim Harbaugh played power, smash mouth football at Michigan. He was in 2 tight ends, fullbacks, and they would run from I backs. So you know what they want to do with Jim Harbaugh. Even though he's got that really talented quarterback over there that's hurt right now, Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh wants to run the football. So this guy, it's not going to be the guys that they got from the Baltimore Ravens, because they have 2 Raven running backs, and you're saying, oh, Chris, you like the Gus Bus, you like Gus Edwards, you like J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, I do. But I don't think they're the most. I don't think at the end of the year, when you're going to need somebody in your fantasy playoffs, I don't think it's going to be those 2 guys. I think it's going to be this guy named Kimani Vidal of the Chargers is a running back. I think he's a rookie from either TCU or Texas Tech. But I didn't do a lot of research. I just know the name. Okay. And he's going to be that guy. He could be the Frank Gore for this version of what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. He could be that power running back that catches the ball and is responsible with it, doesn't fumble it away, and carries the rock 25 to 30 times for Jim Harbaugh. Okay. Kimani Vidal, I believe TCU or Texas Tech.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure the college. Rookie guy. Look him up.
All right.
Later on, maybe with your last pick, or Kimani Vidal is going to be on the waiver wire.
Oh, yeah.
So, just FYI.
Okay.
Those are my sleeper guys for the year.
Nice.
We'll revisit this episode, and we'll see where I was right, where I was wrong.
Yeah, we do need to do that. I don't know if we did that last year.
No, we didn't. But I was right last year. The one that I was right was about Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
So, me personally, the thing that I've been doing, like I can do mock drafts, and I feel like I don't like picking in a 12-team league. I don't like picking 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Because by 11 or 12, all the top level guys are gone. And in that second round, when it comes, because it's called a snake draft. So you pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, then 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So if you're picking in that 11 or 12 spot, the top 10 guys are normally gone. I mean, sometimes A.J. Brown sneaks into that 12 spot. Not always. Sometimes Saquon Barkley's there, but not always. But if those guys are gone, you're looking at guys that I don't like in those spots. I think it's very, very rich. We're talking about Puka Nacua that I don't like. I think he had a really, really good breakout year, but I think it was more circumstantial than anything. I think Cooper Kupp was hurt last year, and I think Puka Nacua really, really benefited from that. So I don't think Puka Nacua is going to be the number 3 scoring fantasy receiver this year. I really don't, because I think Cooper Kupp's back being healthy, and I think his Puka Nacua's opportunities are going to go back. Then the next one that's there in that late pick is Jonathan Taylor, and I hate that pick there. It's very rich. I don't know. I don't know what the Colts are going to do, but that's one of the guys that are there by the list. And everybody that does a draft normally would have a list. And Jonathan Taylor's about the 13th guy on that list where you would pick in that spot if you had to. I don't like him there. And then the other one that I really hate, which is like the 14th guy, really, really hate, is Chris Olave, receiver of the Saints. I just don't see it. I've never seen it in Chris Olave. I don't believe in him. I don't believe in Derek Carr. Very, very rich Chris Olave. So I hate those picks. So what I've been doing is in the second round, if I have that, I'll pick Jalen Hurts, which is very, very rich. Even though he could be the number 1 scoring player in all of fantasy, yeah. It would be a significant overdraft because people don't pick the quarterback that early normally.
Yeah.
But I learned last year in my Lompoc League, I only had, because of the situation where I picked last year, I had the first pick, and I couldn't pick him first last year in that league. I only had one crack at him because by the time it got back to me, Jalen Hurts was the 18th guy picked last year. So I only had one chance to get him. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a huge year. Like we talked about earlier with the Eagles in our Eagles-based episode. The Eagles are very, very talented on offense. Very talented on offense.
How old is Jalen Hurts? Is he fucking he seems like he's been around forever now.
So this is, I think, going to be Jalen Hurts' 5th year in the NFL. And every year he's gotten better in terms of fantasy scoring. I mean, last year, I think he was the number 1 scoring fantasy option in all of the scoring, but it wasn't as good as the year before.
Yeah.
So he had a little bit of a regression.
Okay.
I think that they're very, very talented on offense, and he could have a huge year. And the other thing that I've been doing is picking Travis Kelce there in that second round early. Tight end for the longest has been just musical chairs of picking people at tight end. But now there's some depth at tight end. But there's 2 tight ends that stand out is Laporta of Detroit and Travis Kelce.
Okay.
And the Chiefs, led by quarterback Patrick Mahomes, they've tried to upgrade the wide receivers a little bit, but I think they've got this guy named Marquise Brown that could be a good receiver, but he got hurt. I'm not sure how hurt he is. And then their breakout guy of last year, Rashee Rice, I'm pretty sure at some point this year is going to get suspended by the NFL, whether it be for 4 games or 8 games. I think he's going to, he has made a few bad decisions, drinking and driving. So I think Commissioner Goodell is going to maybe take 4 to 8 games away from him at some point this year. So somebody's going to have to catch those balls from Patrick Mahomes. And who's better than the guy that's been catching balls from Patrick Mahomes for all these years, Travis Kelce. So I don't think he's necessarily, his ADP doesn't lead to the production that he's going to get. So if you end up getting one of those tight ends, Laporta or Kelce, you may have a positional advantage. And the other one is Mark Andrews from Baltimore. He's another good tight end to have as well. But there is depth. There's depth there. George Kittle goes later on, about the 8th, 9th round. Dallas Goedert from the Eagles goes right around the same time that Kittle goes. So the tight end black hole of tight ends, it's not as bad as it's been in previous years. So if you don't end up getting one of those top 2 tight ends, so Sam Laporta or Travis Kelce, it's not complete death. It's not like it's been in the past. But if you get Laporta or Kelce, you definitely have a significant positional advantage at the tight end position. So the thing that I'd like to remind myself is it is a yearly overall thing, overall scoring, but it's a week-to-week matchup. So you got to play the matchups. You got to win the matchup that you play that particular week. You don't have to win the matchup from the previous week, and you don't have to win the next week. You just have to win the week that you're in. So don't get too bogged down on positional rankings. If you have something in your gut, if you can justify it, if it's a guy you like for me, Jalen Hurts, pick Jalen Hurts. Pick the guys you like.
Yeah, true.
Pick the guys you like. And if you try to get Jalen Hurts, what I've been doing is if I have one of those later picks between picks 6 and 12, I try to get A.J. Brown, and then I try to stack him with Jalen Hurts. That way you get double points with them. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. If they have an off week, it's not so good. Yeah. But more than not, with those 2, it's good. So some of the positional stacks that I like, obviously Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, best stack in the world. Very, very biased, very Eagle homer. Another good one is Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, and then Josh Allen. Like I talked about earlier, I think that could be Curtis Samuel.
Okay.
It could be their rookie guy that they got, Keon Coleman, but I think Curtis Samuel could have a little bit of a breakout year.
Oh, yeah.
So try to stack. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So I think if I want Jalen Hurts in my Lompoc League, and I think people know that, but Jalen Hurts is a good guy to have on your fantasy team, so everybody wants him. If I got to get it, I'm going to have to overdraft him in probably the second round.
Yeah.
Or at the end of the first round at the pick 12, and then take my chances with not Chris Olave and Puka Nacua and Jonathan Taylor. So the other thing that I did find funny, and I do find this super funny, because we talked about the Jets and the Jets not being a historically well-run, powerful football team. But sometimes the Jets, they have 2 guys that are top 15 draftable fantasy guys. Sometimes the 2 Jet guys, they go before the 2 Eagle guys, which is amazing to me. is the other Jet guy. I think that this other Jet guy, he's going to have a good year is Garrett Wilson, the receiver from Ohio State. I think he could have a really big year this year. I don't know if he's going to have an A.J. Brown year, but yeah, look out for Garrett Wilson as well. But you're paying a premium to get him. He's obviously a first round or a second round pick. So,
here, I'm gonna hit the restroom, but you can keep.
Anything else that I've said? Like I said earlier, plenty of depth at wide receiver. Like if you miss out on wide receivers, you could still get the Packer guys. I'm not sure which one of the Packer guys is going to be the guy because I think they have 3 guys: Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and my personal favorite, Jaden Reed. The Packer guys, led by their quarterback Jordan Love, I think they could be on the upstroke. And then another team that's on the up, I think offensively, is the Houston Texans, quarterback CJ Stroud. And then they have 3 wide receivers that are very, very good: Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins. Those are all available after the second round. So those are good guys to have. Another thing that I always look for when I do it, and I try not to overdraft, but always be conscientious of taking rookie wide receivers. I talked about it earlier, and I think there's 2 good ones, 2 very good ones, Malik Neighbors and Harrison Jr. But there's gonna be some guys that we miss. So you got to play the waiver game, and you got to do a little bit of research during the week. Like the draft itself is only 1/3 of the puzzle. Well, maybe a little more than 1/3 of the puzzle. The draft itself, you got to play the waiver game. That's at least 1/3 of the puzzle, and then you got to be in the trade market. You got to improve your team. Like I said, it is a season-long matchup, but it's not a season-long matchup. You got to win the week. You got to win the week first before you win the season. So win that week. So another guy that I do like, and I think his value is right around the 4th round, I believe. His name's Drake London from Atlanta Falcons. Now, Atlanta Falcons, they paid the quarterback Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins is a very good fantasy quarterback, and he's a good fantasy quarterback, but his play doesn't translate into being a good NFL quarterback. He's made a lot of money, but they've never really won any playoff games with any of the teams he's ever been on. And he's always thrown for a shit ton of yards. But they never really have won. Teams haven't won because of him. But now he's got this Drake London, and Drake London, since he's been in the NFL, hasn't had top-notch quarterback play. Well, now he's got Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins is going to need somebody to throw the ball to. And I think that's going to be where if Drake London's ever going to shine, this is going to be it. So Marquise Brown was another one. He's hurt right now, undervalued a little bit. Marquise Brown, just pay attention to how hurt he really is. So look for those Chiefs and Packers receivers between rounds 4 and 6. I think you're going to find value there. Chiefs and Packers between Rashee Rice, who may or may not get suspended, Marquise Brown, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and then Romeo Doubs you can get real late. So hard to say who the Packers' top receiver is, but I think they have guys that can and will catch the football. And Dan, Apostle, Judah Matthew.
Yeah.
That's all I really have, unless you have any questions.
Not really. I think you explained a lot of it. Yeah. I mean, sounds like you know what you're talking about. So that's all I can. Cheers to that.
That's all I got, folks. Comment down below if I babbled too much, if I used words you didn't understand, if I spoke out of turn, let me know. But I'd love to hear feedback, and I'd love to hear. I'd love to debate with you.
Yeah, pretty good. Dang. Anything else to talk about after that? I don't know. What else do we?
It's going to be a little cooler today, so hopefully I can enjoy my day off. I did. I bought a 3-pack of underwear, so I'm not so obliged to do the.
Oh yeah, how's underwear?
I got 3 new pairs.
Where'd you get those?
Ross.
Hell yeah.
Ross.
What brand?
Nike.
Ooh, fancy.
I'm Nike from head to toe normally now.
Dang, you're Nike.
And my huevos have Nikes on them now.
Fuck yeah.
So if your huevos have Nike on them, comment down below. That's all I got. All I got. I feel like I babbled on too long.
Oh, that's good. I think that this is gonna get at least 40 views. I got a hashtag fantasy and all that, but
if you want to see some Songbird Apostle merch, comment down below if you have any particular art talent. Send us some pictures.
Let us know.
Songbird Apostle merch.
Oh yeah.
There's no solo Songbird merch on the horizon.
Well, maybe.
Well, the Songbird is a team. He's a teammate first.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving the tag team yet.
Yeah, No, you're not gonna Rick Martel me.
I'm never gonna Rick Martel you. I'm never gonna Shawn Michaels you. Can't do it. That's low.
Hell yeah, that's too much. Yeah, what do you got planned the rest of the day?
Nothing. I'm gonna watch Terrifier. I have to rewatch Terrifier.
Oh, I want to
rewatch Terrifier.
You watched 1 and 2. Chris Jericho's in number 2.
Is that on the Peacock?
Oh, it's on one of the Roku or whatever apps.
So I shouldn't have trouble finding it?
It should be. I think it's free. I don't know. Maybe it's Netflix? I don't know.
I just want to wish everybody good luck in your fantasy season. And let me reiterate, don't blame me. These are just things that I'm going to try to do if I get the chance in my draft. A lot of it depends on your draft position, and how that happens for us in our drafts is we have cards, and we just put the cards ace through king on a table, and everybody randomly picks an upside down card, and that's how you get your draft position. So I think the better spots to pick is between spot 6 and 8. I think those are the honey spots right now. It just seems like I don't like the turnaround from 11, 12.
Okay.
I just don't. So maybe 6 through 10, because at 10 you can still get at 10 you could still get Saquon or AJ Brown normally. You'll get one of those, and I think everybody knows how I feel about AJ Brown.
Yeah.
And if Saquon don't get hurt, look out. Look out for Saquon if he doesn't get hurt.
Nice.
Good luck, everybody. Apostle,
all right.
Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah.
Thanks for starting early, because I think I jumped the gun a little bit.
Oh, you're good. I should have
talked too much today.
I might take a nap after all this. It's been a
Songbird centric episode.
Happy pig. Yeah, you had a full hour of we had a full hour of regular stuff and then a full hour of fantasy. So
could you break it into 2?
I probably could. But
except we're wearing the same shit.
I mean, I could break it into 2, or I could just, I don't know what's better. We've never done one that's like 2 hours, I don't think.
But we did our regular, and then we did the fantasy. We kind of did 2 episodes.
I think there's a way I can put pinpoints and like little markers, and it'll be like, this is where we talk about this is where we talk about that, and then at the hour mark it'll be like fantasy. So I could put little markers, so maybe I'll try to do that.
All right.
Try and get it up by tonight. I might take a break right now, go eat.
All right, my man. It's great seeing you. Good hearing from you. Have a good rest of your day. I'm sure we'll be in touch throughout the week.
Yeah.
Looking forward to hearing how your week goes next week.
Oh yeah.
Have a good day.
All right.
Tell the people that you love. Tell them you love them.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. Good luck with your fantasy seasons.
All right.
Your
Good luck,
friend,
man.
the Songbird. Fly, Eagles, fly on the road to victory. Fly, Eagles, fly. Score a touchdown, 1, 2, 3. Hit 'em low, hit 'em high, and watch our Eagles fly.